Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Code. This will be the last session before the summer break. So the next session will be on August 27th. We're going to need some more speakers for fall, and so get in touch if you would like to present something. With us today to give a talk about continuous integration is Maxime Garcia. Maxime is a bioinformatician from Banken and KI, and he also works closely with the NGI. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them here on Zoom, for instance, in the chat, or post them on YouTube as comments, and I will try to post them to Maxime after the talk. So without further ado, I will hand over to you, Maxime.
Okay. Thank you. And now I'm sharing the screen. Okay. So let's start this presentation. So I'm going to talk about continuous integration. I'm very sorry about the joke, but about the pun, but I wanted to find a joke for a good title. And yes, I figure CI Joe was kind of fun. So let's begin that. So as Sarah said when she presented me, I'm employed by the Swedish Childhood Tumor Biobank, so Banken, and I'm also working all the time at NGI, and we are working in close collaboration with NBIS, and I'm mainly responsible for developing SAREC in the NF Core organization, which I'm also part of and helping administrate. So for me, one fundamental aspect of science is its reproducibility. And I think it's very central when I'm developing. I want my code to work on my computer without any issue, of course. And I also want it to work on other systems, and if possible, give out the same result. So for doing that, we have several tools that we can use. I think the main one should be versioning, containers, documentation, and tests. So today I'm going to talk about the tests. And there are several levels of tests, there are several kind of different tests, but I'm going to talk just quickly about two levels of tests, unit tests and integration tests. Unit testing is very to check the basic functionality of a specific section of a code. Typically, it's done at the function level, and you basically try to see if each brick of your program is working as it's supposed to work. The other option is to work at a higher level. It's set as a higher level and to do integration tests. So this idea is instead of checking the working of one unit, you will check if several units all at once will work together well. And this is, in my case, since I'm developing a pipeline and we are using several different tools, it's kind of difficult to do unit testing because assuming that all the tools that I'm using are already testing if their tools are working. So I don't need to test if the tools are working. I just need to test if the tool chained together are working in a group. So for me, I'm doing more integration test. And yes, so my first advice is do test. And I think it's important to do. And yes, you should really start now if you haven't started already. Yeah, sorry. So we have several options on when to do tests. I think the first idea is you can do tests related to a release. So you will do tests before the release, you will do tests after the release, and then you know that your tool is working as it's supposed to work and you're happy. So This is already good. But you can do better than that. You can do also test whenever you want. So if you have like, if you made like some big change in the code, you can do some test. If you prepare a release, you can do some test beforehand, then you can continue working on the test. And we can do even more than that, is doing tests continuously. I don't mean really continuously, but with versioning and automation, proper automation, you can really trigger tests whenever there's a push. This is very typical, and this is what I usually do on my code. And for doing the test, we have several options. I'm going to talk about tools that you can use for that. So if you have tests that are already prepared and already done, you can run them yourself on your computer. But usually it takes some time, and I think it's better to automate stuff whenever you can automate. I'm kind of lazy, and yes, if I can automate stuff, I will automate stuff. So first idea is Jenkins. Jenkins is really like a great tool. You have like plenty of plugins that can help you support like your CI testing, and you can also automate like plenty of other solutions. The only downside about Jenkins is that you need to have a server for it. So if you have a server, you need to set it up to use Jenkins and stuff like that. So it could be slightly complicated, but it works quite well. Second option will be cloud-based, so on the cloud. So CircleCI is actually quite good, and here currently I have some, not really some tests, but just some automation. I'm building some Docker image for one of my pipeline, and I do like CircleCI because they do have like a good amount of memory that Travis CI doesn't allow. So that's why I use the CircleCI for that. And yes, I have some fails there, but that's why I'm retrying. And yes, CircleCI does allow you to relaunch only a failed process, which is actually, I think, quite good. Then I think one of the most known is Travis CI, which is also quite good. And we've been using Travis CI for a long time. And you can see like you can see all of your projects here. And if I click on one project, I will see what is happening for this project, the whole history. So this was the organization. So the whole history for this project, I can see that it worked for all of the recent tests. All of them were working. So this is a good news. You can see that this project is quite stable. And then, of course, this is quite recent. This is within GitHub. You can do, you can automate plenty of stuff with GitHub Actions. And here, this is a test that I'm doing for the server pipeline, and it's working quite well. So I have all my tests that are automated and that are here. But now let's go for some example. So yes, my second advice is be lazy and automate. Whenever you can automate something, automate it. And I think for testing, it's quite important because yes, if you're going to spend some time by doing that yourself, you can make a computer do it for you. And I think it's easier. And personally, I do that on every project. So currently, my presentation is hosted on my own website, and I do some tests on my own website. So this is a CI file, a CI.yaml file, which is hosted on the GitHub page from my website, and so it's using GitHub Action. So the syntax is quite simple. Here I specify that for every push or every pull request, and I don't know if you're seeing what I'm highlighting, but okay, so third line. So This workflow is triggered on every push and every pull request to the repository. It's running using Ubuntu, one of the latest version, and it's comprised of several steps. The first step will be like to check out the code. Second step will be to install the tools that are needed for running for making sure that the website is building and everything. So these are like the next steps. And the last step will be actually like to run some tests and to check if the website is building without error, if all the links are correct, if the favicon is working, and that's all. So I do that every time I make some modification to my website, and that way I know if an URL is not working. I know if if I made some mistake with HTML tags and stuff like that. So it's quite useful, and you can really like with that you can really like fix some easy mistake. And of course I do that for all of my real project. So this is for Sarek. We are doing some integration. So this is the basic integration test that we do in every NF Core pipeline. And what I really like about GitHub Action is that we can use matrices so that we can run like several tests at once. Here, in this case, I use matrices for the Nextflow version, which is set up as an environment variable, and which means that when we install Nextflow, at the install Nextflow step, I can install Nextflow with the 19.10.0 version, or I can install Nextflow with not a specified version, which will install the latest version. Then once Nextflow is installed, I'm pulling a specific version of the container for Sarek, which contain all the tools. And then I'm running the basic tools, which should work for all NF Core pipeline. And this is just one simple test. And with that, I'm running already 2 tests. So this is good. I'm doing also more within Sarek. So here, for example, this is an extra test that I'm doing. I'm using, again, the matrices. So I'm testing 7 different tools with 2 different options. So one option will be using the no intervals parameter, and the other option will be not using it. And with that, I'm running this command line. So, and I will specify one of the tool and one of the options that I showed you earlier. So with that, I have 7, which I multiply by 2, 14. And from that, I'm removing 4 combinations that I don't really need to try because they are not different than the other one. So I'm running here 10 tests with just this simple stuff. So it's very easy, very powerful, and yes, and I really like that. And it was much more easier to set up here in GitHub Action than it was in Travis. And currently for Sarek, I'm running 6 different tests with multiple conditions. So we do have like 24 jobs in total, and more to come. So if I can just show you how it goes. So yes, how it goes. So this is all the Sarek testing, and you can see like all of the tests that I described to you earlier. So this is classical. The classic NF Core test. So this is the part that is interesting. It's the part when we run the test. So I can see that this first one is run with the Nextflow version 19.10.0. And here the whole workflow is happening. And I can see that in the end, it worked successfully and I'm happy. So for the moment, this is all that I'm doing for Sarek. The next step that I will do, it will be more than CI, but it will be like doing some validation test and be sure that the output are how they're supposed to be. But yes, I think my advice will be start to do some tests, to start to automate them, because currently you can find like plenty of tools that don't do testing, and I think it will be a great plus if more tool will have that. And yes, because that way, if you do develop tests and if you do develop automated tested for your project, you know that you will have to have like an installation system that is easy enough so that you can automate it within your test and that you know that it can work. And yes, and I think I'm open for question now. So I think I can stop sharing my screen and I can let Sarah take over. Up.
Great, thank you very much, Maxime.
Thank you.
Very nice talk. Cool. So if anyone has any questions, just feel free to ask them or put them on the chat or on YouTube. I can't see any at the moment, so I will start. So I guess this sort of builds on actually having written tests to run on the...
Yes, of course. Yes, so in my case, for the pipeline, the way we do that, we do have like a very tiny reference and a very tiny data set, and we just run all that through the pipeline, and we are expecting that if everything goes well without any failure, that it works well.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes a lot of sense because whenever you have a tool that is not working, then the output will be like empty and won't work for the next tool.
Yeah.
So I think for me it's enough. But yes, as I said, the next step will be like really to do some validation test and to be sure that the output is how it's supposed to be. But I'm guessing it might not be that important when developing a tool. I'm guessing it might be more important if really we're in a clinical setting and we want to be sure that the output is the same or doesn't evolve like a lot from time to time.
Yeah, I guess that's a big challenge with biological data in general.
Yes, of course.
You always have variation in the results.
Yes, and you want, and for me, yes, the reproducibility is very important, and you want to be sure that everyone can run your code, and you want to be sure that given the same data and the same reference data, people with the same version of your tool will get the same result. Because otherwise, I don't think we are really doing science.
Yeah. Cool. So
I don't know. Can I just ask a question here, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Good. So how much experience do you have with other CI tools like Jenkins and these?
Jenkins, we tried that. That was, I think, last year. We tried to develop that for NF-Core, and I did use that for Sarek. And I did like the syntax. I think, if I remember well, we tried the JSON file, and it was working quite well. But the main issue for me with Jenkins is that you have to set up the server yourself. Or if you have
if someone else set up the server for Jenkins, how would you compare the integration tools?
Then I will say like Jenkins has some very good possibility, because with Jenkins you're not limited. If you're using like Travis CI, Circle CI, and GitHub CI, you're very limited based on the servers that are available in the cloud. So usually you have a limitation of CPU, a limitation of memory, and you can't really do some full-size tests.
Okay, so it's mostly a matter of the compute limitations that you think is the advantage of Jenkins then.
For me, it would be
GitHub.
that I guess that also Jenkins has a lot of plugins, but I haven't really delved into that, so I'm not really sure about it. But yes, for me, the real advantage of Jenkins is that if you want, you can like set it up so that you can run like tiny tests like in the development, and pre-release you can run like full-size tests, which will be very good. And that is something that We are trying to do currently within NF Core, but we are trying to do that on AWS. So
okay. Yeah.
we have GitHub Action that launched the pipeline on AWS. Currently, it's just some tiny data set because we haven't had time to develop all that.
Yeah.
But then, yes, at some point, we will do that as well.
Yeah. I haven't used GitHub Actions that much, but one thing that I really liked when I looked at it and used it was that these users things you have on there, it's just I mean the way you can develop your own of these plugins to GitHub Actions,
Yes.
and
Yes,
these
that
are
was
just
very good.
repositories, and I thought that was a like really nice
Yes, and
architecture that they had there.
yes, and I think what I preferred from GitHub Action compared to CircleCI or Travis CI is that CircleCI or Travis CI, you have to log in to the account, you have to set it up, and you have to enable it. GitHub Action, if I fork a project, if I were to fork like the one NF Core project to my own account, then the GitHub Action will already be working on my project. I don't have to set up anything. So I think it's very easy if you don't know a single thing about that.
Yeah, it's nice to have it integrated. Yep. Okay, I don't have any other.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yep. I think that's all the questions we have for today.
Okay, good.
So thanks again, Maxime.
Thank you very much.
And I guess I'll see you all in August.
Yes.
Looking forward to some more speakers signing up, maybe. We'll see. Okay. Take care, all. Bye.
Thank you, you too. Goodbye.